Hey guys, welcome to TD1. So we're going to talk about C++. When it comes to the feedback I got last semester, a lot of you guys wanted to do more programming. Very understandable. It was something new we tried with Microsoft, and I think it was good for people to get a basic understanding of cloud at a very fundamental level. But this semester, we're going to stick to a lot more programming languages. A lot of you guys suggested Python. Around 80% of you suggested Python. And some of you suggested C++, Ruby, React. One of you suggested Alteryx, which was a neat idea. So we're going to start with C++. I'll get some feedback, hopefully in the TD from you guys. And we're definitely going to do a Python one. I'm thinking of also maybe doing two Python ones. One more data analytics focused, that would be through video, and then a live one, which would be more creative, using the turtle graphics. So let's get started. So for this TD, I want to talk about what C++ is first. So really, it's one of the more popular programming languages. Everything stemmed from C down to C++. And then you have Python, JavaScript, Java, all these other coding languages. And for us, C++ is used for very critical applications or high performance applications such as video games, web browsers, servers, operating systems. So many big companies are going to use C++, such as Adobe, Google, Microsoft, Netflix, all the FANG companies, even government agencies like NASA. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to start installing an environment. I would suggest you guys install CLion. Now a lot of people think C++ also might not be relevant right now because it's a very old language. It came out in 1998, but it's still very, very relevant, and it's definitely something that is used for efficiency. I know some people use Java or C Sharp, but it's often one of the first languages a lot of software engineering students use. So, and I believe the rough estimate is like 100 and a lot of software engineering students use. Yeah. Um, we can check briefly on C++ programmer salary. I believe it's like 117K, or depending on the area. So maybe like 110K. Um, so you definitely will get a good salary out of it, and it's mostly used for data structures and functionality, and almost every application uses it. So why am I at the screen, and why have I been talking for a bit at the screen? I want you guys to download this extension. So it runs for Windows, Mac, and Linux. For Mac, know know this. Make sure you download the right DMG. So one is for Intel and the other's for Apple Silicon. This is all based on the type of processor your Mac uses. The difference in performance is noticeable. Um, we can use Visual Studio Code or Xcode, but the problem is you would have to start installing certain extensions, and such as MinGW. So the only issue is that tutorial can take a bit. So what I suggest you do right now is you would download this. I already downloaded it, so I'm not going to do this, but essentially what you're going to do is you'll click this, right? And there'll just be a installation wizard. that's where you just keep clicking the next, 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 and then you install. So I also recommend you close all unnecessary tabs or windows before installing CLion. But at the bottom, you just click this and then click next, 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 install. And then you'll get this pop-up, and this pop-up will be for an agreement of terms of services. I would agree to that. Your Defender firewall alert might like pop up as well. Just allow access to that as well. So now that we've done that, we'll go to CLion. So this will not be what you guys will have. Okay. Oh, cool. So we open up this. There'll be like a button for you guys. It'll just have like a plus saying new project. For me, it's up here. Just click new project. Um, so oh yeah, when you open C++, you're gonna need to activate your license. So just select the start trial now, and then you'll need to log into JetBrains account. So back to this, or JetBrains. So you'll just select the free trial. Uh, and then you would click start trial. So you select the free trial, you click start trial, and then you'll get this location right at the top. So once you've selected the free trial and you create a new account, it's really simple. It takes a minute or two. And you just go to the email and you follow the instructions there, and then you go back to CLion and log in. But for an account at the very top of your location, we're gonna give this a title or a path for this location. So I'm just gonna call it TD1 spring 2023. And here you can see all the updates. I'm not going to use 23. Also, this is just the different versions from 1998, 2011, all the way to 2023. I'm going to stick to 2020 because 2023 is very new. And just in case if there's any bugs, I know it just came out, so give it a name, and then you're gonna hit create at the bottom here. Okay. Now you're gonna get all of this stuff. You're gonna get the CMake list txt. Just get rid of that. This just tells you your project name, and then this just tells you that this is the executable code. We don't need any of this. It's still here though, but we don't need any of this. We just want to focus on the main.cpp. So I'm going to delete all this. Also, yours will be in a different color. I can show you how to change the color in a bit. So the first thing is we're gonna write the word main. So main is a special function that will make the code run in C++. Now make sure you don't write main, because that has a completely different meaning. C++ is case sensitive. So just write main. We want to keep it all lowercase. And before main, we're gonna put a special value. So we're gonna put int. Okay. So and it's okay to have these red squiggly lines for now. Um, so the main function should return a value of an integer. That's what int is short for. So it represents these whole numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we run our program, it communicates with the operating system to execute this function, and the value that this function returns it just tells the operating system if our program is terminated successfully or not. The nice thing about C++ is you don't need to worry about white spaces, but we do need to worry about putting in parens and then brackets. Now I like to put my brackets down here. You could put it here, but in between here, the braces, this is where you type the code for this function. I know a lot of you guys already know this with Visual Studio Code, but I know for a lot of people this is new. So it'll execute this main function, and we're just going to start with something very simple, like a print statement. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to use a standard library. So C++ uses a bunch of libraries. This is a nice thing about C++ is, well, to include this library, we're going to do pound include. But the nice thing is you don't need to know everything to be a very good programmer. And this is especially the case with C++. Um, so the standard library provides a bunch of capabilities, and it's used in almost like every application. But this standard library is to stream. It's for the one we're going to use is IO stream. So this is short for input out stream. So in this file, it just gives us the capability to print something on the screen, or it also gives us the capability of getting input from the user. And the standard library has different files, each serving different purpose. We're only going to use this one because, again, this is just a very introductory level. But back to our main function now. So here we have type std, and we're going to put, and that's short for the standard library that we're trying to access. So this is basically like a bucket or container that allows us to use these available features that we're importing. So I know some of you guys have taken the Python course. I know some of you guys want to learn Python as well, but one of the things is like import random. It's essentially like that. That's how we're accessing this. And there's many different features, but the way to use these features is we're going to use double colon. So using this object, we can output one or more characters, because the way we're going to do this is we're going to use C out, or spell like this. So, and that's just short for character out. So this allows us to output one or more characters on the screen. So we type a space followed by like two of those left angle brackets. So now I know this is pretty typical with all code, but we're going to type hello world. Yeah. But this is just how we're going to print on the screen. Again, I want to emphasize this, but I haven't yet. So it's usual with text, you're going to use quotes. So we use double quotes. But unlike JavaScript, C++ is not forgiving. So we have to use semicolons. So if you take this out, you're gonna get this red error. Nothing's gonna happen. There we go. So you're just gonna get an error. But if we put back the semicolon, there we go, no errors. So the semicolon is used just to tell the operating system to stop. Something to know is any line of code is a statement, and it just tells the operating system what to do. So whenever we want to stop with something, we're just gonna put a semicolon. So now we're gonna return the value 0. So return 0, semicolon. Here I'd like you to take a screenshot of your screen or a snippet. And the way I want this TD submitted is essentially, here, I'll just show you. You would just take a snippet. One picture, you got your output, the code. You don't need necessarily the project window, but I'm just gonna ask for a few of these throughout this TD, and then just put it all in a Word doc, and that's perfectly fine. But anyways, we're gonna return the value 0, and we terminate it with the value 0 because 0 tells the operating system our program is going to terminate correctly. If we return with any values, positive or negative, that means our program encountered an error. So at the top, we include one of the files in our standard library for printing out something, which was that include IO stream. And then we define the main function with the entry point. And as you can see, we use int for main. And this is only used for whole numbers. So again, 1, 2, 3, even 0 would work. So, and then in between the braces, we have the written code for the function. So the first line, we're printing something on the screen, and the second line, returning the value, as simple as that. So next, I'm going to show you how to compile and run this program. So this might be an issue if you had Visual Studio Code and you didn't decide to get CLion, because you would need to get the compiler extension, which is min-gw. You can do that if you want, that's fine, but I thought this was easier. So I'm just gonna run this. There you go. So really, the compiler is just another way of the machine code to run, which is what we just did, which is just what I showed you. So it just understands from one operating system to another. But one thing to note is when it comes to operating systems, code is only executable on certain operating systems. So for Windows, we cannot run it on Mac or Linux. And if you want to run our application on a Mac computer, we have to take this code and recompile it to another executable from a Mac. So I already showed you how to run it. You just click the play button, and down here, this little window, I'm sorry if I'm being not as oriented or structured. I keep remembering that like some students don't know about like terminals or consoles or just like the play button. But down here is this is the console or terminal window. And it's basically a way to see the output of our program. So I know some of you know this from web app or web service programming. You can see the console as well through developer tools, or even using HTML preview as an extension. And you could even type like console.log. So here we can see like hello world printing out to this output. It's a different thing, but you could see how it's working. And console applications are easier to create, especially for learning a new language like C++. So there's no reason for us to use a GUI since it's a tutorial. So, and then I did mention the semicolon, which is good. So just remember that. Please remember to put semicolons at the end, because I know that's a habit of a lot of coders in JavaScript. But lastly, for just the beginning, I believe we go to view, quick switch scheme, and you go to theme, and you would install a theme. So I like to sort by relevance, or not relevance, downloads. So I'm using the Dracula theme right now, but this is how you get different colors. So pick a color and then take a screenshot of that, you with a different color. So, all right. So now we're going to talk about variables. So when it comes to variables, we can initialize or we can declare a variable first. So I'm just going to write in file size. This is declaring a variable. Now, what a variable is, it's just a temporarily stored data. So this value of the variable can change as we manipulate the code. And you'll see later on with values of like, we might call something like change and equal it to like 1. And then we can increment those values or use mathematical operators to add to those values. So the values keep changing. It's temporarily stored data. So in our case, we're using int file size. So this is first an integer storing whole numbers. And it's good to give it a proper name. And then the other thing too is I'm using a semicolon. So, but the distinction here is this is just declaring a variable. We want to give this variable a value. So this is how you would give it a value. This is 2 lines of code. Now you can do this, or you could just make it 1. Pretty simple. But now let's try a different data type. So I did talk about integers. And integers are those whole numbers I mentioned, like 1, 2, 3, 4. But what if we want 1.2222? So a lot of you guys know float. That's not going to work in C++. It's essentially double. So when it comes to data types with decimals, we use double. And here we're just going to make double equal to 9.99 semicolon. And we're going to want to output our file size. You could also hit tab. That usually works. So for new coders, you can hit tab when you're typing, just so you don't have to, if you like are afraid of like mistyping something, that helps. Just make sure it's the same variable. So instead of hello world, we're gonna print file size and run our program. So and then we get 100. Just take a screenshot of that. So let's see. Now, if we don't initialize the variable, right, you're going to see something different. Now we're just declaring the variable but not initializing. We already get this warning right here. Oh, here. So right here, it's showing you local variable is only assigned, but never accessed. The value is never used. And you see remove initializer. So right now we have to initialize the value. That'll fix it, but let's try it without initializing. So you get this random number, right? You're gonna get a random number each time. For you, it might be different, but when you initialize a variable, and you're just gonna get some random value. It's useless data. Sometimes coders call it garbage. Now, when you initialize variables like this, like you do int file size in like C# or Java, it automatically gives it a value of 0. Here, it's just giving it a random value. So note that you have to give it a value. We'll give it 0, semicolon. Now, let's say you have you want to cut of like one word or 2 words or something for code, right? Instead of writing int twice, like int counter, let's say we wanted to add a counter. You'll see why I have this comment here later. What you can do is you take out this int and it will make this 2 variables initialized and declared. So you don't have to write int. This is like a very, very minor shortcut. I don't even consider it a shortcut. I think it could be more confusing. So I usually just stick to oh, it's giving me a tab. There we go. I usually just stick to putting in a separate line. I think it's best practice too, but you can do it the other way as well. So both work. Now we're gonna clear this and we're gonna try something new. So you could, no, you don't need to take a picture of this. This is fine. But so small exercise for you. Cool. So I want I want you to write code that swaps the value of 2 variables. So I'm gonna have a equal 1, b equal 2, and you're gonna have code here. And I'm gonna have my cout arrows here. So what I want you to do is I'm gonna ask you a question. It's a basic and common interview question, but I want you to swap the value of these 2 variables. Now, what I mean is we're going to declare these variables A and B, right? And now if we print A, we're going to see 1 on the terminal right now. So, oh, it's because I have the dots. Cool. So, what I want you to do is I want you to write code to swap the value of these variables. So when we print A, we see 2, and when we print B, we see 1. Now I don't want you to reset these variables. So I don't want you to I don't want you to set A to 2 and then B to 1. That's not how I want you to swap it. I want you to swap the values. Um, so what I mean is don't just do this. Don't put 2 and 1. How would you go about switching the values of these two without actually switching the values beforehand, like before assigning them? This could be a little confusing to explain, but it is a common interview question. It's a basic one, but I think it's good for like a small exercise. So I'll give you a minute or two to think about it. All right. So the way I would do it is I'd make a third variable. So to solve this, we need a third variable. So first we empty one of the contents of the variables into another. So the way to do that is we're gonna give a variable C equals A. Then we're gonna have A equal B, right? So, and then from here, we can keep swapping. So then B equals C. And then we need to access our standard library. So I know this can seem very confusing at first, actually, now I'm thinking about it, since this might be new to you, like access a standard library and stuff, but it's a learning process and it's okay. But essentially, we're gonna run this. Oh, have it twice. That's good to know. Cool. So I swapped the value of A to make it B's value too. The way I did that is I set C equal to A. So C now equals 1. And then I made A equal B. And then I made B equal C. So since A equals B and C was already equal to A's value of 1, and we already knew A equals B's value, so A swapped to 2. So that's how I went about it. If you got stuck, don't worry. And also, it's a very confusing thing to say. So, and it could even be a confusing thing to read as an interview question, but it's just something to get you thinking a little bit. Um, I would take a screenshot of this and then put that on that Word doc. You can also have a TXT file, so like you can have your notepad, and if you want, you can copy the code onto the notepad. I'm fine with that too, just as long as I see you tried. So, all right. Now we're gonna talk about constants. I talked about variables, and you see how these values all change. So I'm getting rid of the namespace. And remember, we're gonna use double because we have a floating number now. So I'm gonna use pi. Now we're gonna talk about constants. So there are situations where we don't want the value of a variable to change. So let's say we want to calculate the area of a circle. So let's declare our variable. We already did that of like pi. Um, we're gonna need to calculate the area of the circle, but let's say I accidentally set it equal to 0, right? So let's say, oh, and I even forgot my semicolon, but let's say I accidentally set it equal to 0, right? The whole thing is I just want you guys to understand that when you do this, you're gonna get your value to change as well. But we don't want the value of pi to change. So we're gonna use something called const, and it's okay to get this error. And this just means you can't have double with const probably. Yeah, you can't have, there's no such thing as like const double, yeah. So, so basically we use const to prevent like pi from changing. Um, the reason we do this is because remember a variable is just temporarily stored data, and this data changes unless we use const. So now looking at like line 5, you see that like red line underline. That's just a compilation error, so you can't assign that value. Um, we can see what's happening as well. If we run it, terminal. Yep, just a compilation error. Um, but now I'm gonna fix the issue. So all I'm gonna do is just delete it. That's all I need to show you. So I think we're pretty good with variables. I just want to show you something interesting when it comes to variables as well. Let's go back to the file size example. I'm just going to declare it. There's certain notation that comes with C++. So just know that this is called snake case. This is called, so let's do this. This is what I personally use. I usually use Pascal case. Usually. You'll see why I'm showing you this, but all right, there's just a bunch of cases, but I'm just going to show you 3 of them. So the reason I'm showing you this is local variables. Yeah, I know that. A lot of developers will use different cases for different teams. And also I think it's important just to know that these 2 dashes are used for comments, because I forgot to mention that. But when it comes to coding, you have comments. So I know it might not be pound signs or just arrows, but because I know in different languages it's like that, but here it's just the slashes, and these slashes are used for describing our code. So right here, I'm just writing snake case, but that doesn't affect the code at all. So it's really just text, doesn't affect our code. But snake case uses underscore. I do sometimes use this as well, or Pascal case. Camel case, not as much, but this is typically how people write code now. There used to be older ways. So there used to be the Hungarian notation, which was just like I file and then size. No one uses that anymore, but get rid of that. Here we go. All right. So just hovering over it. There we go. You're going to see that C++ recognizes these certain cases. So right now, my cursor is hovering over capital F for file size. So it recognizes that it's Pascal case. So just take a picture of this and then we'll move on to past the naming conventions. So now we'll get to some mathematical expressions. So just delete this. And let's see. Okay. So I'm gonna start declaring variables. So you keep sticking with int. Let's do int x equals 10, int y equals 3, int z equals x plus y. Cool. I'm gonna add a space. So when it comes to operators, you have addition, which is the plus, and you have subtraction, which is the minus, multiplication, is the asterisk, and then forward slash, which is usual. And some of you might already know this because it's apparent with a bunch of code, but let's say, oh wait, I will need to return that output. So perfect. So we all know 10 divided by 3 is 3.333, but we have int. So since we have int, it's going to make the value an integer. So let's run it. That should be 3. Yes, it is 3. And then you would think like, okay, it's an integer. Let me just make int double. It's gonna be floating, right? Well, it's already giving you the warning error. And it's telling you about floating point context, so you won't have the precision. Wow. But essentially what I was gonna tell you is when you put in integer values, just because you made z double, it's still gonna give you 3. Yes, you got 3 again. So what you have to do is one of these two, either one, has to become double. So now you see that it's 3.333. So then lastly, let me just change this back to integer. Let me change this back to integer as well. We have the modulus operator, which just gives you the remainder. So 10 divided by 3 will give you a remainder of 1. So our output should be 1. Cool. So then you get 1. I would take a screenshot of this and then put it on the Word doc because now we're gonna try some increments. So yeah, let's do that. So just leave 10. I'll leave x equal to 10. So here we'll just make x equal to x plus 5. So, and we got to get rid of z because z doesn't exist. X should, yeah, there we go. So here we made x equal to 10. And since x is already equal to 10, it's just going to be 10 plus 5, and then you get x equals 15. We ran it, it worked. But now let's try it with some multiplication. Get 50, cool. So we're adding to our values and multiplying by our values. Now let's try incrementing it. So instead of that, try this. One. So let's say we want to add 1 to x, and we could say x equals x plus 1. That's totally fine. But this is a shorter way to write it. So you could write this, we could write this. This is a shorter way to write it. So and we got 12 because this added 1 to 10. So let me explain this again. I didn't do a good job of explaining it. So x here is 10, and then it's adding 1, which will give you 11, right? Then here, you're adding another 1, which will give you 12. Now, what I'm saying is this is the same thing as this, and it's a shortcut. So it's good for incrementing. So we can even do this. Let's just call this y, and then give it that value. And I have to make sure I put in the data type. So my data type is an integer. So here, we should get 11. Okay, good. And so it was assigned to 10, and then it incremented by 1, your value of x. So it's going to be 11. So let me start adding comments to show you what I mean, because this might be a little confusing. So here, x is equal to 11 beforehand, because what it's doing is it's taking this 10 and it's adding 1 to y. Just to remind me to do z equals. Then I want to show you that you could do it another way, but it's different if you do it this way. So here, and then this one would be z. We'll run with y first really quick, but you get 10 when you put y. See, when I put in x, it got 11. When I put in y, I got 10. But if I put in z, you're gonna get something different. So you would get x equals 11, and then z equals 11. So let me clarify a bit as well. So actually, let me just run this to make sure I'm right. Z should be 11. Z equals 12. Oh, my bad. That's because I have Z and not X. Oh, wait. I am being stupid. Now it should work. Yeah, there we go. It's because this line of code of x plus plus is carrying into this line of code, which is z equals plus plus x, because beforehand it's going to add the value. So then that would make this 12, and then this would make this 12. But I just commented it out, so then it'll be 11 on 11. But yeah, so that touches on some mathematical expressions, but just know that this is something a little bit more complex, I guess. Just take a screenshot of this, and then we'll move on to some order of operations. So if this confuses you and you want to know a little bit more, just let me know. But all you're doing is you're adding x, and the plus plus after will add, it won't add to the y, but if you do plus plus beforehand, it'll add to the z value. So that will change the value of z here, this other variable. But if you do it afterwards, it won't change the value of the other variable beforehand. Again, or you can do it the simple way of x equals x plus 1. And it doesn't make you smarter using another way or something. So feel free to use whatever. I'm just going to delete all this really quick so we can talk about order operations. So when it comes to order operations, we all know of like PEMDAS, and we know that you close parentheses, then exponents, and multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So I'm just going to show you how that works with code. So first, let's just make some comments to show you what would come first in hierarchy. So you would have multiplication, division on the second level, and then plus and minus at the bottom. So when it comes to math, we're going to make this double. X equals 1 plus 2. You just multiply this. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. So declare a variable x, since set equal to 1 plus 2 times 3. Now let's print to the console. Be quick. Now students can get this wrong a lot of times and not think it's 7, but because they'll think like, okay, I do 1 plus 2, that makes it 3 times 3 is 9. But that's not PEMDAS. You would want to go multiplication first because there's no parentheses, or division. And if it was division, you'd read left to right. So here, it's just going to be 6 and then plus 1, which gives you 7. Now, if I wanted to get 9, then I add the parentheses, and that's where I got ahead of myself a little bit. Yep. So I would just know that when it comes to mathematical operations and programming, it matters the order you use. So just remember PEMDAS. And if we wrap in parentheses, we can change the order of that. And then I'll just take a screenshot of this. And then we're going to do our last exercise. This one will involve PEMDAS, but essentially, let me show you what I want you to do. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to do z equals, and then for the numerator, I want it to be x plus 10. And then for the denominator, I want all this divided by y. So I want x to equal x to equal 5, and then no, let's make x equal 10, and then we'll make y equal 5. So yeah, try writing this in code up top, and then I'll show you my solution, and the answer should be 1.333. Yeah, it should be if x equals 10 and y equals 5. Yeah. So I'll show you how I did it. So just take I'm just gonna wait a little bit, but try attempting that, and that'll be our last exercise. I know I know we didn't get to data structures or loops or some crazy graphics or anything, but you did install CLion and understand some very fundamentals of like declaring variables or using the standard library or understanding the main function and like getting an output in the terminal from this first TD, which is pretty good. And you even learned C++ in that manner. Um, None of the MIS classes teach you that, so it was just very good. But if this is something you want to get a little bit more in depth in, let me know. It'll be in the feedback on Canvas. So all I'm gonna ask on Canvas is you submit that Word doc I was asking, you take the screenshot of this as well, and the last exercise, which I'm gonna which hopefully you're able to figure out. If not, no worries. Uh it's new language and everything. But yeah, just submit that Word doc, and then I'll be looking for some feedback. So I was thinking about making the last TD live, and then a second TD can be maybe some data analytics with Python. The third one, I was thinking making creative stuff with Python, like maybe some drawings or something. Or if that's what you want, or we can do a second part to C++, and I can go. The second part would be it still wouldn't get to for loops because we need to discuss more about the standard library and console, and then get in more depth about numerical values, possibly drawing shapes, but that might stretch it a bit longer than an hour. Um, but I can also show you how to draw shapes in Python, the third one, if it's live. And keep sending me other ideas as well, other than Python, because I did notice some really cool ones like Ruby, C Sharp, or Alteryx. I think Alteryx was a cool idea. Um, so I read all the feedback, and I liked seeing what you guys had to say. It was really good. But thank you for doing that. So yeah, let's do our last exercise. So let's do it. Let's take this out. Let's take out double. Actually, no, we could keep double. Let's just. So when it comes to that expression I showed you, we need to add parentheses. Pretty sure I showed that when I was showing the expression, but that's essentially all I was getting at was you need to use parentheses here because this is your whole numerator and this is your whole denominator. And the value will change if you take out the parentheses. So I need to change this value to z just so it's used. And then we should get 1.333. Good. Okay. Now let's say I take out these values, right? Actually, wait. You get 10.666. And then see how it changes even more. There we go. 25. So using PEMDAS does matter. Um, when it comes to mathematical operations or expressions. And that's it. Just take a screenshot of this. Um, here. Sharing. Cool. Yeah, just take a screenshot of that. And then I'll just show you some brief events really quick. So here's some important dates. So we have the speaker series Monday, in Alter 33, from 12 to 1 p.m. And then we also have PD this Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. These are all more consulting based. So we got EY and Deloitte. And then we also have just submit the TD1 by February 19th. And then if you need more time, let me know as well. Just feel free to reach out. And then the deliverable is due the 21st. And then it's also on Canvas. And then here's my email. So if any issues, let me know because I feel like maybe installing CLI might be an issue for some of you, or if there's just some bugs or something you want to know, it's fine. But as long as you tried, you'll get credit. So yeah, and then just fill out some of the feedback, and that's it. So take care.